Hello, everyone. Today, I'm Crack Takes here to break down UFC Fight Night Cejudo versus Song in Seattle. Here for you guys. There have been 7 fights that have been mixed up, canceled, or scrapped or moved to a different card. If you look here, this is pretty crazy. That's led to some new fights being made up just this week in the last 2 days, and I want to break this down for you. It's actually my first video on this channel and breaking down MMA fights. So, for those who might be interested and maybe why you should listen to me, I am currently actually ranked 11th on Tapology for my UFC picks. I've been picking at an over 70% clip for the last 10, and Lifetime pretty close to 72. I've been taking this seriously over the past year, trying to break down fights, trying to know what's going to happen. And I want to give some people the knowledge that I've had and maybe help them be able to make some money or maybe just be educated about the fights that they're going to go watch. So, starting off the card, we're going to do all the fights on the card, starting from the early prelims. We're going to end with the main event. So, if you want to just watch my take on Cejudo versus Song, go there. But I'm going to give you guys a lot of good stuff on all the fights, especially if you're gambling. This is going to be a good thing to listen to. The first fight is Modestas Bukauskas versus Rafael Chiquera. So, a quick overview. You can see what I have picked out here, so that might give you a little bit of a spoiler. But Modestas Bukauskas, I have him winning by KO. He's had 2 runs in the UFC. His first run, he lost, got kicked out. He had one win over Andreas Michailidis, but he's not very good. He went back to Cage Warriors, won the belt there again. He's come back. He's now training with like Tom Aspinall and those heavyweights in the UK. And since the coming back, he's been 3-1. His only loss coming to Vitor Petrino. And while people might hate on a Vitor Petrino loss, especially in recent times, Vitor Petrino is not bad. He got caught in a silly gilly. Hold on, on paper Anthony Smith, which will happen. And Vitor Petrino was literally beating Dustin Jacoby. People forget, and he was really hyped up. And then he got caught, and everyone's like, "Oh no, Vitor Petrino shit. He's not shit," you know. So I don't really think that's an embarrassing loss. Rafael Chiquera though, he came out in his last fight and he just got beat up silly, got made to look kind of stupid, like he didn't belong in the UFC, and I don't think he does. Also, a lot of people are gonna fucking fuck up Rafael Chiquera, and they're gonna talk about how big he is. If you saw his last fight when he's next to Ibo Aslan, I know Ibo Aslan's a big light heavyweight, but he looks small. Like he's thin. He's long and tall, but he's thin. And so Modestas Bukauskas, who I think is a real light heavyweight, a real UFC caliber opponent, I think he beats Shikera, probably KOs him within the first round, light work. But if you're betting on this fight, I'd be very careful. Like, don't put too much money. If you're putting your fucking mortgage down on Modestas Bukauskas, like, I think he might be a little challenged. Modestas Bukauskas, he's very good for the light heavyweight division. That's very thin, and he's beat up a lot of bums. But if you look at this Marcin Prachnio fight, Marcin Prachnio nearly had him finished, like I think on multiple occasions. There's like one moment too when they're right on the cage and he hits him with like a question mark kick from like nowhere. It's very very good kick. Not a good look though if I'm picking you that you're getting nearly KO'd, that you have to turn into a grappler when that's not your game to beat on him. He should win. I'm fairly confident, but this betting line I don't think is fair because Rafael Chiquera, if he comes out and it turns out that if he gets comfortable and he doesn't just get blitzed by some crazy Turk, it may be good. That he might actually be good, and I think that the odds are not really fair to that. This fight, though, I'm very confident. I would say this is a lock. I think Ruzi Boyev is going to KO Eric McConaughey. Eric McConaughey, nearly 35, never been in the UFC. He was cornering Jared Cannonier last week, which makes you think maybe that they they looked at him in the corner and said, "Hey, man, we need somebody to fill in. Can you do it?" And he was like, "Okay." He was training. He's fighting at like Tough Enough, which isn't awful, but it's not a great promotion, and you don't really want to see that. And Nursultan Rizibulaev, some people have talked shit, talking about, like, oh, I don't think he's actually that good. He lost to Joaquin Buckley, who's on pace to perhaps get a title shot pretty soon in welterweight if he gets one more win. That loss has aged very well. He didn't even get finished by Joaquin Buckley, like Wonderboy, like Colby. He just got decisioned, and while he got dominated, he was also going down a weight class on like a 2 week notice. People forget that that happened. And other than that, he KOs Bruno Ferreira, who's I don't like Bruno Ferreira. I think he's not very good. Like I think he gasses out, and I think he's a little crazy. I don't think he's that technical. But that's a really good KO. That was his first ever loss. I didn't know that. And then he beat Cedric Dumas. And while it was a total eye poke, like it was a bit ridiculous that that ref didn't step in there at all. He was way better than Cedric. And Cedric is not even that bad. Like Cedric, people like I'm going on a side tangent, but he's not even that bad. He's an upper class middleweight. He's going up there against Eric McConaughey, who I don't think is that good. He's a regional guy and is about 35. Nursultan Ruziboyev should be able to get a KO here. He's also so rangy for the division. Hopefully he doesn't get stupid and go down to welterweight again. That was a dumb experiment. Moving on. Now we have Austin Vandervoort versus Nikolai Veretennikov. Now this is an interesting fight because I would say both of these fighters are better than their records. If you look at Nikolai Veretennikov, I'm just going to go to his Tapology page here. Look, he has like 3 losses immediately. So he's 12-5, but realistically, take out 3 losses. And take out that first win. Just get rid of all this because I feel like that's not really representative of him. Then he's like 11-2, which I think is a lot more fair. He even has a win over Charlie Antiveros, who went on to make it to the UFC even before him. But then he goes to the Contender Series and he loses to Michael Morales, and then he loses to Danny Barlow. A lot of people will give him a lot of credit for that Danny Barlow fight. But I don't really care because I think Danny Barlow came in with a broken arm apparently, or he broke his hand in like one of the first punches. Danny Barlow also just looked like he wasn't a very well-rounded fighter. He didn't have too much. And Nikolai Veretennikov, who I think is just a pretty decent guy, like a decent fighter, was able to kind of exploit that, and he still lost. I think rightfully lost that split decision. His other loss is to Michael Morales, who is very, very good. Like probably maybe one of the best prospects in the UFC in general. So you can't hate those two, but every time he's come into UFC competition, he's lost. With Austin Vandervoort, you know, he hasn't been great, and he's not been too active, and he's got 2 KO losses. Both, I think, were at exactly a minute 25. But in Bellator, he was fighting better comp than Veretennikov has ever seen. And like he has a win over Fabian Edwards, which kind of moves the needle for me. I know that's a long time ago, but I think Veretennikov is not that good. I don't think Austin Vandervoort is very good. I'm not very confident either way, but I just feel like I like the Bellator experience more than I like the dodgy regional experience from Veretennikov. Actually, pretty good regional experience, but I don't know. I want to see you beat injured Danny Barlow that's not doing too much. Like he's a very highly thought of prospect, and I'm not as high on him. Also, this fight's very stupid. If y'all didn't know, he was booked to fight. Veretennikov was booked to fight Billy Ray Goff. Pulls out. Billy Ray Goff gets moved to this card against Adam Fugit. Adam Fugit pulls out. Billy Goff is off the card. Veretennikov comes back on the card, not fighting Billy Goff, fighting Austin Vandervoort. That's pretty crazy. Very stupid. I wonder what the UFC's got going on. Now, I think this is actually one of my favorite fights on the card to break down because I think this is an interesting spot. Also, if you want to look at Vandervoort, just going back, he's a dog. There might be some value there. I don't know. I would probably stay away from betting on this fight. I was thinking about betting because I think these odds are fucking crazy for Ricky Simón. He's plus 230. I don't see it. Like, I get that Javid Basharat's doing good, but I feel like he's getting a lot of Farid Basharat's rub on him because Farid Basharat's been looking pretty great, but Trevin Jones, Tony Gravely, Mateus Mendoza, he's good. But that Ayman Zahabi loss. Ayman Zahabi, he's a very well-coached, very smart fighter, but he's also very, very limited, and he's older. We need you to be beating guys like that. And Ricky Simón's current loss run, it's honestly, he has, like, tough luck. First off, Song Yadong. He's currently the headliner, one of the best prospects, young fighters in the UFC. We'll give you a pass on that. Mario Batista, he then went on to beat Jose Aldo. We have to be fair. We have to say, when you consider that, we'll give you a pass. Like, that's a reasonable loss to have. We're not going to, be outrageous about that. He then goes and he loses to Vinicius Oliveira. He's probably, I would say, the best prospect in all of bantamweight. Great striking, impeccable takedown defense, great stamina. I don't blame you for losing to fucking Vinicius Oliveira. Vinicius Oliveira is too good. Javid Basharat, though, he has no danger to him. He has no danger. Javid Basharat, like, he can wrestle you. The both brothers have pretty slick striking, but slick is not powerful. They're not hitting you with anything heavy, and they're thin. They're skinny guys. They're not, like, they have good, like, they're very well-rounded, but they don't have danger. I'd actually say this fight, I think, is very close. I'm picking Javid Basharat because I think that he's younger. I think that if the fight's on the feet, which I think it most likely will be on the feet, I think he'll just look smoother and he'll look cleaner. However, Ricky Simón, he has like a win over like Merab. He's got good wins. these last three, I don't think are fair to judge him on. And like plus 230, I think that's a bit crazy. I would say this is almost like a dead even fight. I'm picking Javid because he's younger, he's on bit better form, and it feels like Ricky Simone. Especially if you look at that last fight, it's reasonable to Vinicius, but he looked pathetic. Like it was like sad. It was like watching Marab Devashvili if he fell off. It was a bad look. So I'm picking Javid, but I think this fight's super super close, and that's really great value if you're trying to bet. Nick Klein versus Mansour Abdul Malik. Look, I'm a Malik Glazer. I think he was one of the best fighters to come off the Contender Series. I watched like almost all the Contender Series fights, and there's this crazy clip where he's walking next to Bruno Lopez, who's on the same episode, who's the light heavyweight that beat the Ghaziasilov. I just fucking butchered that. But he's taller than Bruno Lopez, like thicker, like wider, and like more muscular. He's like way bigger, notably bigger than Bruno Lopez, who's a light heavyweight. And this guy, he has power. He has wrestling. Like he's kind of like Dreykus. If Dreykus was somehow even bigger, but even more unrefined. If you look at the Dusko Todorovic fight, he fought kind of stupid. Like Dusko Todorovic, he had a leg lock at a point, and instead of being able to just like pull out of it, give him the beats, he kind of stayed in there, and I don't like that. Like you're so much of a better fighter. You could have just focused on getting out of that spot. Why are you trying to play in that kind of compromising position? And he didn't get it. And I think Mansour Malik is better than that, but I'm not moved. And then we have Nick Klein on the other side. This is kind of a funny fight because Nick Klein was teammates of Wes Schultz, and Wes Schultz was in the first main event of the season. He was kind of like the LFA champ that I think they might have been trying to give him a push. He's a college wrestler, really good BJJ. I thought good striking, and so they tried to put him on the very end, the last episode of the Contender Series, as the main event against Geraldo Souza. I don't think he could get cleared because of the KO and how long ago that was. Nick Klein, also in the gym, decent enough record, says, "Hey, I'm here. Why don't you give me the fight?" The UFC says, "Okay, Nick Klein, we'll give you the fight." And I think I don't know if he got an oop or if it's just like that similar managers and they're just in the same gym. But basically, he just kind of gets thrown an oop by knowing Wes Schultz, and Geraldo Souza pretty much jiu-jitsu ninja jiu-jitsu like right away. But Nick Klein hadn't looked that great prior, and if Nick Klein not great striking, like I just don't think that he can hang. And just because I think Abdul Malik, like he's like bigger and like he's just so much bigger. It's kind of freaky. I think he'll just blow through Nick Klein, worse than Wes Schultz. And I think that Abdul Malik, he's 27, which is young, but he's also so raw. And knowing that he can go do this full time, I think we're going to see huge improvements each fight. He's probably one of my favorite prospects from last year's Contender Series. He's a one to watch. He's probably going to blow through. The line is already minus 1,000 where I bet. So you cannot so I don't think it's playable really anymore. But I think that line's fair. I think he's that good. You have now Andre Fili versus Melquizael Costa. Melky Costa, interesting looking guy. Comes in against Thiago Moises. Loses. That's valid. Thiago Moises is good. Beats Austin Lingo. He's not good. That's fair. Gets KO by Steve Garcia. Fair. Beats Shylon Nerd and BK. That was a close fight. There's some moves for Shylon, but Shylon is just like he's one of these Chinese fighters that's has some wrestling, some entry level boxing, but it's very limited in their skill set. So it's good that he got it, but it's like it doesn't say too much. Andre Fili, he's got great wins. Like I like that Bill Algeo win. That people thought highly. Nathaniel Wood, we don't care. It feels like he's beating the people he should and losing to the people that are thought to be better than him. And he's like not had 2 wins in a row off the top of my head since like 2019, like 5 years ago. He was in his 20s the last time he had back-to-back wins. But I just look at this fight and I think Andre Fili should probably just be better in the striking a bit. Should have the wrestling. I wasn't moved by Melky Costa. I don't know. I don't feel very strongly on this fight. I think, Andre Fili's getting older, but he beat Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson looked great in his last fight. But I don't know. I don't have a very strong opinion on this one. This fight though, I think that fight's very close. I'm picking Andre Fili just because I know that because he has a lot of the skills, but God, that was tough. You have Iwan Kutalaba versus Ibo Aslan. Oh, let me just move that. Iwan Kutalaba is a good wrestler, brawler, but he's kind of chinny now, and I feel like his time might have come and gone. You know, like he went to a split decision with Ivan Urslan, and Ivan Urslan shouldn't even be in the UFC, so that's not looking good. He's a little chinny, you know. So and he's beating guys who are not good. Ibo Aslan, I think, is good. You know, Anton Turkalj, I think, would challenge him in the grappling to the extent that Iwan Kutalaba would. I think that Shakira, he just went out there and beat him up. I don't know how much that even tells us about Ibo Aslan. Is that I think that's more so of a that guy sucks moment. I think Kutalaba, although he's only 31, he's like in his fight years and his chin years, he's older than that. He's got a losing record in the UFC. I feel like Ibo Aslan, even though he's like they're not that different in age, like less than 3 years. I feel like he's like the young prospect who's going to come and snatch his chain and make a name for himself off of this. It should be a fun fight. It's also that even if Kutalaba gets him down, I don't think he's not like a jiu-jitsu master. You know, he's not like some crazy jiu-jitsu guy that's going to make things happen. I just think that he's going to probably have a little bit of a brawling moment and then get chinned. But then again, I also don't feel too strongly because I don't know how I feel about Ibo Aslan. Like he's looked good. He's only lost this to Turkalj, which isn't as bad as I think it could be. But there's like a lot of questions about Ibo Aslan. None of them have been answered, and so although I am picking him, I can't recommend him that highly or that heavily. Now we have Alonzo Menefeld versus Julius Walker. I've actually went and watched tape on Julius Walker, and it's tough. It's tough because first off, for a light heavyweight, he's got a gas tank on him. He's got great size, like 6'4", 81-inch reach. I believe that. He's young. There's a lot to love about Julius Walker. He's at Team Fusion, which I'm pretty sure is a pretty legit gym, and he's going up against Alonzo Menefeld. Um, like if you look at the Nate Bartling fight, this is one I found was interesting. Nate Bartling was fucking him up bad. Like he didn't have any answers, and then pretty much pulls out some slick jujitsu submission like out of nowhere, and it was like it was good. Like it was a nice win, but there's also like he was getting his ass kicked. Like there's a moment where he's giving his post fight speech and he's like, you know, well, we always expected to be here, and somebody in the crowd yells, "You were getting your ass kicked." I don't know if I want to like saw, and he's come to the UFC pretty quickly. He's only been fighting pro for like 2 years, I'm pretty sure. Alonzo Menefeld, although he's been losing recently, like I can't hate on it too much. You know, like he loses to Olberg. That was like he basically was like Olberg is a better striker than me. He probably won't get taken down. I'm just gonna fucking put my head down, bite down on the mouthpiece, go crazy, try to clip him when he doesn't expect it. Like if I go in like that and he before he does, I have a good chance of landing the first hit. But Carlos Olberg was too slick, too sweet, and got his ass out of there. And then he goes up against Azamat Murzakanov, who's also very good, and gets put out, which makes him look bad, especially when he's 37. But Alonzo Menefeld, I think I have to pick him. Julius Walker is good, but he's so young. I think Menefeld just hits so hard. He's got a great gas tank. I think that this is like a big jump. I feel like this is when there's that regional guy who got put against Alizio dos Santos, who people were like, I don't know, this could be a moment. And then Alizio just kind of was like, showed him like, yeah, this is what the top end of my division looks like, and just got him out of there quick. I think that's what this could look like. But the more I see Julius Walker, the more I like him. Like he seems very mindful. He seems very smart, which makes me kind of want to pick him. I think he'll lose this fight, but I do think he has a long career in the UFC. I think that Alonzo Menefeld at this point in time, he's just like a bit of a nightmare for a guy who's stepping in. You know, he's gonna really put it on you in a way that a Tuco Turcos could never. And then we have Jean Silva versus Milsic Bagdasarian. I think I've seen a lot of really dumb opinions about this fight. People are like, Melsick might expose the John Silva striking. It's like, are we serious? I know he's had a history of in pro kickboxing K1, but Bazookia, ugh, decision, ugh. Colin Angelin, who? He got subbed by Cooley Bao. That's poor. That's not even his game. And then that's a decision over Tucker Lutz. Like who's like the only person here in the UFC is Dennis Bazookia. Like what does that say? This is a huge step down for John Silva. John Silva, he beat Weston Wilson so badly that Weston Wilson was a minus 300 dog to Jekka Serengay. Serengay is not even close to UFC caliber. That's how bad he beat Weston Wilson. He then goes against Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain, I think he's very misunderstood. He was like always that top 25-ish featherweight that if he got 2 wins in a row, he could get that look into the top 15, but he just never could get that. And he'd never been finished, and he beats Charles Jourdain so bad that he goes down a weight class. He's like, I just don't belong. He then goes up on a week's notice from that fight where he KOs Charles Jourdain to Colorado to fight Drew Dober, who's a Colorado native, been, training in Colorado, who's a perennial top 15, and yeah, he had just fallen out. Gets a finish over him. Know who didn't get a finish over him? Hanato Moicano couldn't finish him. He finishes him. I know it's a doctor stoppage, but he was beating the fuck out of him. I know he's in Melsik Bagdasaryan. I think that they didn't want to give John Silva a top 15 opponent because he'd only had 2 fights at the weight class. One of them he missed weight pretty bad in the Charles Jourdain fight, and I think they just wanted to keep him active. Another win, 3 in a row in the division, they could get him that fight. I think they wanted to give him a guy who's in the top 25, top 20, but probably who would actually want to fight John Silva in that position? You know, you're taking a shit fight that puts you back years in work when you could just say no and get something easier. I think this is just a justification, a showcase fight that he should be ranked. He's minus 575, and that might seem wide, but the second they go into the ring, to the arena, I think he's going to be value. Like, I'm very, very confident. Now, you see my pick. Might be controversial. Rob Font versus Jean Matsumoto. So, when we talk about Rob Font, his striking is still exceptional. If you watch that Kyler Phillips fight, Kyler Phillips is known to be a pretty decent striker himself. Yet, he made him look like shit on the feet. And that's not really the story of the fight. That's what a lot of people will talk about. And that's why you'll see a lot of people being like, oh, fuck, they forgot. What they forgot about. We put in all our life savings on Rob Font against John Matsuhu. But in the Kyler Phillips fight, Kyler Phillips took him down, easily won the first round, and then got tired and then couldn't do it again. It was like shocking. Like it wasn't like Rob Font was even making him like work like crazy. He just like managed to wear him out. And so John Matsumoto, I think he has the grappling. I think he has the gas tank to just be able to shoot takedowns, get Rob Font down, and win. I don't think Rob Font will be able to keep it on the feet. He's 37. Matsumoto's getting a nice little jump here. He was in training camp. This isn't like too crazy. Even though it's a catchweight bout, he was supposed to fight in a couple weeks anyways. I think this will be a bit of a showcase. I think people are going to be really high on Matsumoto after this, and probably higher than I am, even though I'm predicting this. I think there's value on Matsumoto because Matsumoto is probably going to make the line look stupid. Rob Font, there is a decent chance I will say, that he keeps it on the feet and just beats the fuck out of him. I'm just not that confident in that. I think you're going to see John Matsumoto just take him down, make him look silly, and make it look like that he is the undefeated guy. You know? Brad Katona, that fight was actually very close, but Brad Katona's good. He subbed Dan Argueta. Like, he's a good fucking grappler. Don't look past it. Now, we have Brandon Allen versus Anthony Hernandez. These guys have actually fought in the past. Fluffy beating Brandon Allen. And I think that fight is going to be like a pretty comparable fight to this, right? In that fight, Brandon Allen outstruck Fluffy in the first round, hurt him pretty bad, and then Fluffy kind of came in, took him down, started fucking him up, but first round of Brandon Allen, we'll take that. Yeah, that's fair. And then after that, Brandon Allen was just gassed and just pretty much just didn't get finished. Like it was like if Marab knew how to do ground and pound in like submission attempts. He beat him bad. It was like a pretty similar fight to the Michel Pereira fight, and I think the Michel Pereira fight was also a good lead to this fight because Michel Pereira has the dangerous striking, way more dangerous than Brandon Allen. He also has pretty good grappling. His grappling is not as good as Brandon Allen, but you know what I mean? He's going to be the guy, like, you know, we saw him throw up submissions. We saw how Anthony Hernandez looked against quality submission attempts, and he looked great. Brandon Allen, he got broke by Nasruddin Mavov when the first round was literally just him laying on top. I can't favor that. And also, Brandon Allen, He's very talented, but Brendan Allen, I call this Brendan Allen syndrome because I think I came up with this the last time he had a fight. No, it was when he was going to Chris Curtis fight. Brendan Allen has great striking, like not goated striking, like 7.5 out of 10 striking, and he's got incredible jiu-jitsu. Like he subbed Paul Craig. Who else has he subbed? Bruno Silva. That was a more valuable sub. That was a more valuable win back then. Andre Muniz. These are great fucking wins, but he does not have wrestling. He does not have great takedowns. If he gets you there, he'll look great. He does not get you there. And Anthony Hernandez, he does have that wrestling. He will get Brendan Allen down. He'll probably play in Brendan Allen's guard a little bit. He'll break him. Brendan Allen is gonna like probably look good in the first, maybe even win the first round. But by the time that bell for the second round goes, he's gonna be tired a little bit, and then Anthony Hernandez is just gonna break him. Well, if Brendan Allen had better wrestling, you knew he could shoot that first takedown, maybe get in a more dominant grappling position, I wouldn't mind picking him. But I think he's just not going to be able to shoot the takedowns or stop the takedowns. And Fluffy is just going to kind of run through him a little bit. Fluffy might be a future champion. I think this will be a little bit of a showcase of that. Now, main event. Also, if we're talking about the betting value, I think it's going to be a decision. I don't think Brendan Allen's going to get subbed. And I think the line is pretty fair. So, Song Yadong versus Triple C Henry Cejudo. You see my pick. I'm gonna break it down though. I'm actually, even though I'm picking Song, everyone is. I'm not that confident in Song. Like, Song is very good. He's so young, and the fact is, like, he's at that age. We expect to see crazy improvements between every fight, and he's already that good. So it's kind of like, how much better can we see him get? You know, he's lost like Corey Sandhagen, beats Peter Yan. Like he's so good. But we saw him get taken down. Like he was striking, arguably outstriking Peter Yan, then got wrestled. Henry Cejudo can wrestle him. I just think that Cejudo is too old. I think he's just 38. You're not going to be as fast. Your chin's going to be a bit worse. Your your hands are going to be a little slower. And against us, and he's already stubby as hell. And against the Song Yadong, who's going to be able to hit him first when he's coming in, I have to pick Song. But I also can't hate on Cejudo too much because I think that he's had a bit of a weird career. Where his best win, and arguably one of the best wins of all time, is he beats Mighty Mouse. I'm just going to click on his Tapology page so we can kind of go over what I'm talking about. Sergio Pettis. That win has actually aged incredibly well. Beats Dimitri Johnson split. Arguably shouldn't have got it, but the fact you're going that good with Mighty Mouse, phew. Beats TJ Dillashaw. There's so much shit surrounding that fight. Who knows? Beats Marlon Moraes. That fight now gets looked on as bad, but at the time it was a super duper scalp. Like it was kind of incredible of a win. Like I don't want to glaze too hard, but he was the killer. It was kind of like, but Cejudo got him out of there and sent him basically took his chin. But people weren't sure because that win is it's aged badly because Marlon Moraes basically became a nobody overnight. Beats Dominic Cruz, but Dominic Cruz is old and he shouldn't have had a title shot. He then retires. He comes back, and I think these are actually his most impressive performances. He comes against Aljamain Sterling, great champ, and I think Aljamain Sterling, what people kind of don't respect about is his actual MMA grappling. He won't have the craziest jiu-jitsu you've ever seen or the craziest wrestling, but in MMA, how he mixes it all in is crazy good. Split decision. I think that might be one of the most impressive performances of his career against Aljamain after so long out. He then takes some time off, comes back against Marab, wins the first, and then gets Marab. People might talk about, oh, it's gas tank. It's Marab. That shit's gonna happen. Those fights are so quality, and the fact that he's so competitive. If he's the same guy, can you pick Song? I am gonna pick Song just because every mathematical regression in terms of how you look at these fighters would suggest that Song should win. I think he's gonna KO. Probably a statement performance, but I think the fight, I like Song at a minus 170, where he's obviously the favorite, but there's a clear path to victory for the opponent. I think this line's out of whack. I'm picking Song. I think that if he does win, he'll probably KO Cejudo. I think Cejudo might be shooting for a takedown, maybe get stuck. Cejudo, he has great wrestling too, but Cejudo's not also as effective as you'd think at getting it. Cejudo can get the takedowns, but for how good of a wrestler he is, for the fact he has a gold medal in the Olympics, he's not perfect. And I think you'll see Song Yadong kind of exploit that and kind of keep him on the feet and box him and knock him out. Song Yadong also, he's very more like compact. A lot of the bantamweights who are strikers are like had 70-inch reaches, I feel like, or taller, like, closer to like 5'10", 5'9", and he's 5'8", which is close to that. I mean, give him that, but typically he's trying to work his way inside a lot of guys, and against Cejudo, he can kind of, I think, have his way with him. I'm picking Song Yadong. That's my pick. You can see my picks here. I'm just going to go over them quickly in case you want to know like what my incredible insight is. And if you look at the fights, I think I almost picked all favorites. My only non-favorite pick was Austin Vanderford, just because I like his comp history, and I think that I have a lot of questions about Nikolai Veretennikov. But Modestus, Brizaboyev, Vandervoort, Javid, very close though. I don't like the odds on that fight. Mansur, I'm picking Andre Fili. Then again, I'm also not confident because Andre Fili feels like he's not that great, but I also don't like Melky Kosa that much. Like these are both guys I would like to fade. Ibo Aslan, Alonzo Menafield, but Julius Walker I think is a super good prospect. Like if he was against Tuco Tokos, my life savings would have gone on him. Sorry, Julius, if you see this, like I like you a lot. I think you're cool. John Silva, I think is gonna obliterate Melsick. Probably not as fast as you'd think, but I think he'll probably get to the second round. I think I'm picking John Masamoto. I don't think Rob Font will be able to stop the takedowns. I think that he'll be able to have the gas tank to basically do what Kyler Phillips got too tired to. Brendan Allen against Anthony Hernandez too. Anthony Hernandez, he's got a great style to beat Brendan Allen. I don't think if Brendan Allen could shoot the first takedown and get it, I'm gonna pick him or be close to. But because he can't, Anthony Hernandez, that's his baby, that's his bitch. He's gonna look great, and Brendan Allen's gonna come out and complain. Henry Silva versus Song Yadong. Song is the pick. I don't like the odds. I think Henry has some clear pathways to victory with the wrestling. Like I mean, that's how Song lost his last fight, but he's so much younger. He's so good. You know. So thank you for listening to my predictions. If they helped you, if you think you got educated, subscribe, like, comment. If you think if I said some bullshit, if you're like Rob Font's not going to get beat by this unknown pipsqueak, let me know. Lovely debate in the comments. Thank you, and I'll talk to you guys next time.